So now that we have our round beam created, and if you haven't seen that video, search for how to create a round beam. But now we're going to essentially create this truss profile in the end of the roof here. And so let's start off by I'm just going to delete this we have. I'm going to leave these two pieces coming out here. I'm just going to show you how I will do this. Um, and for me, a lot of elements like this, I actually do in the ceiling view. And I just find that a little bit easier to work with our projects. So let's adjust this view range. And so let's start by going to our structural tab here. Let's go to beam. And when we start drawing a beam, we want to pick our reference level. So I'm going to pick top of wall. And if it's easier, I mean, you could pick the first floor and then fix that later. But we're just going to draw a beam straight across here. It must appear. So let's figure out what happened. Let's go back to our 3D view. And it looks like it placed this beam in the floor. So it actually ended up placing on our first floor as a reference plane. So I'm just going to cut, and we're going to go to our modify tab here. And we're going to go to paste to selected levels, and we're going to paste to top of wall here. And it looks like we still have to go up a bit. So you can do the start level, end level offset. I like to do the Z value offset, so it just goes vertically up on both sides. So let's call this 3 feet and see where that is. That's pretty good actually. It looks like our ends are sticking out just a little bit, and it looks like we're sticking out just a little bit too much that way. So let's go back to our reflected ceiling plan. We're going to move this in to there, and we want to drag this in so we don't see it anymore. So probably somewhere like that. Let me just see if we're actually seeing that go out the ceiling there. Okay, so it's good on that side. So just bring that back a few inches. And you can see how our point is here and these arrows are over here. What my usual rule of thumb is, you generally always want to move this dot unless you're making a change under 6 inches. And what I mean by a change, you're altering the end condition of that log or that beam. But I usually like to move this dot before I move these arrows. So just kind of food for thought there. So let's just double check. Our log is not sticking out. Perfect. So our next thing we want to do is we want to draw our center post. So we already have this ridge beam in, and I'm going to select all of these logs here and the entire project, and I'm just going to change these to be our new round timber that we created. Where did it go? 12 inches. And let's make sure this is centered like so. And I'm going to center these on those reference planes as well. And make sure these arrows go all the way out. So there we go. We got our log going out. And now let's do our center post. So let's go to the structural tab. Let's go to column. And I'm just going to draw a column in the center here. And again, let's preview. So we drew this rectangular column. So let's change this to be our round timber column. And do we have a round timber column in here? We do not. All right, so let's just do an 8x8. And let's change this to be our first floor top of wall. And let's go up to top of roof. So I think this needs to be 3 up, and this is probably -2. So let's just see how that looks. No, that's not bad. So I'm going to go down a little bit. Let's go to 6 up and -1.6, just so it overlaps both of the top and bottom piece. And so just like we created that other log, I'm going to grab this column, and I'm just going to do this really quickly. I'm going to go to edit family, and I'm going to go to file, save as, family, and we're going to call this timber column round. and we'll click this element, we'll edit our extrusion, and we'll change this parameter to be round. So let's draw a circle. And it's not letting me delete these. Interesting. I'm not sure why it's not letting me delete these. So let's seen that before. All right, so let's scratch, delete this. I don't know why it's not letting me edit that. We're going to go to File, New, Family. I always find it's easier to create stuff from known elements already. But since it won't let us do that, we'll go to Structural Column. And we're going to just double check our parameters here. So we have no parameters. So let's add a dimension, and it's going to constrain both of these. So I'm going to make a dimension there. I'm going to use Control to select both of them. And we're going to call this diameter. All right, let's just call it D. And then we're going to go here to create extrusion. We're going to place a circle around the center. We're going to go back up to our dimension string, and we're going to add a diameter parameter. Again, click that diameter parameter, assign it to our D value, just like we did the other video, and click our check mark here. Let's go to an elevation just for a second. So we want to pull this up so it snaps to the top. And I usually pull it up and then bring it back down and make sure it snaps to the bottom. So that should be good to go. Let's go to Save, and let's save this over top of the one we were just creating. Timber, no, that's not it. Timber column round. Let's load this into project. What I often do is I'll create the sizes in here as I need them, and then once I'm done, I will edit them and just bring them back in. So let's change this to be our timber column round, and let's rename this as, actually before I rename it, we need to get a material. Oh, it's already softwood lumber. No, that one's softwood lumber. 8-inch round. Let's make this softwood lumber. I don't know why it's not liking that. Softwood lumber. Okay. And let's go into here. Let's call this 12-inch. Make that one, or it's actually 11.25 inches. We'll duplicate this. We'll call it 10 inches. If you didn't know, you can use zero space when you're creating things. So you can do zero space 8.25 or 7.25, and that automatically makes it feet and inches. And I'm just going to go to edit type here for a second because I don't know if I selected that material. So let's just double check that. We didn't. So I always like to change our material first. So let's make this softwood lumber. Find our softwood lumber, load that in, click OK. And then once I apply the material, I always change it to match our structural material. And let's load that in, let's save. I always like to apply the material first and then make sure there is a material for each piece. So just with this entry thing, I'm just going to do 10 inches for the column, and I'll leave the beam being a bit thicker at 12 inches. And so here comes the next step. So we've got our column here, and next thing we want to do is we want to make the angle braces kind of in the side. So what I like to do is I like to take our column, and I'm just going to copy it over. Let's just copy it over. Let's just say the width of our column. So let's copy it over 10 inches. I mean, obviously it's not the exact width. Let's change our column style to be slanted, angle driven. Let's make that on a 45. And I think it's going the other direction. It's not going any direction. So it'll let us now make that on a bit of an angle. Let's try that again. Bring this on an angle, like so. And let's just look at that in 3D and make sure it's in the same plane, so it looks good. Go back to our back view, and then I'm just going to mirror this, which it might not let me do. So let's go to an elevation. What direction are we looking here? We are looking at the north elevation. And let's just mirror that over. And maybe that's not enough of an angle, so let's fix that. And then let's delete this one and mirror it back. And mirror that back. And there we go, we have a truss. So we would then add that truss to our other side. And it's, ultimately really starting to look like a log cabin.